Picture this. You're standing on top of an 8,000-meter peak. It's the dream you've had your whole life, pure triumph, and your partner is right there next to you. You're both on cloud nine until suddenly he says three words. I can't see. Total blindness. It's minus 50 degrees, you're at nearly 8,000 meters, and night is coming fast. And that's when it really hits you. You both know there's just no way you're both getting off this mountain. The only real question is whether even one of you will make it back, or if both of you will become part of the mountain forever. That unlucky partner? That's Tomasz MACIEJEWICZ, Czapkins. He used to be a troublemaker from the back streets of Poland, someone who'd hit rock bottom. Then he gave up his bad habits, turned his life around, and set his sights on one of the world's wildest peaks, Nanga Parbat, the Killer Mountain, one of the deadliest 8,000ers on the planet. Tomasz chased this mountain for years. He ate dirt, swallowed his pride, and sometimes had to sell his own gear just to scrape together a ticket home. And then he'd go back, again and again. He'd push for the summit and come up short, more than 5 times. Then he'd try all over again. The obsession took over his life. The mountain became like an addiction. And finally, there it was, the summit. The first pole to reach the top of Nanga Parbat in winter. But that feeling of victory, achievement, it lasted only a few seconds. Because now the body starts shutting down. Cerebral edema, pulmonary edema. The freezing cold cuts you to the bone. The climb down becomes a nightmare. A snow cave turns into a prison. An SOS goes out. Poland rallies together. People raise money. Elite climbers drop their own expeditions. Helicopters stretch their limits just to get up there. But time's up. The decision is made on the slope. Brutal, final. They can only save one person. This is a story about what happens when a dream turns deadly. About the price of obsession. About a choice that changes everyone involved forever. But to really understand how things got this far, how it all led to this point of no return, we need to go back to the beginning. Let's start with, who was Tomasz MACIEJEWICZ anyway? And later, you'll find out who that second climber was. Tomasz was born in 1975 in a tiny Polish town called Światłowieś, about 120 miles from Warsaw. Time moves slow there. Everybody knows everybody else by name. Tomasz spent his early years at his grandmother's place. Peace and quiet, loads of fields and forests. The countryside felt more like home than any house. He loved that calm. It made him feel safe. But when he hit his teens, something broke inside. Tomasz fell in with the wrong crowd, picked up habits we don't really need to mention. He'd vanish for days, out roaming the streets, coming home just for a few hours, maybe less. And then he'd disappear again. His family just couldn't figure out what was happening. It all fell apart so fast, like someone just flipped a switch and the lights went out. By 20, there was barely anything left of the person he used to be. He didn't really live anymore. He just drifted around the edges of life. His family didn't know where he was sleeping. His friends didn't know who he'd become. He was slipping away, turning into a ghost of himself. A shadow who showed up now and then for a couple hours and then vanished all over again. He's trying to get his life back on track, shaking off bad habits he picked up on the streets. But it's always the same cycle. He scrapes himself together, finds hope, feels a bit better, and then it all falls apart again. It's like climbing out of a hole that just keeps getting deeper, as if the walls are growing faster than he can climb. At rehab centers, they get him working, digging, hauling, building. Hard labor is the first thing that gives him a sense of grounding. When his hands are busy, his mind finally quiets down, even if just a little. But that relief never really lasts. Tomasz is an all-or-nothing kind of guy. If he crashes hard. If he rises, he goes all the way. Half measures just aren't his thing. When he finally fights his way out of that dark time and leaves his old habits behind, he's faced with something else, a gnawing sense of emptiness. He's broken free, but that something's missing feeling just won't go away. And he knows he can't ignore it. After another relapse, he hits rock bottom. One more time is enough. That's when Tomasz makes a choice that sounds a little crazy. He throws some stuff in a backpack and just leaves. No plan, no return ticket. He hitchhikes across Europe, heading east. All he knows is that he's aiming for Asia. Where exactly? Even he's not sure. Eventually he finds himself in India. And if you're open to change, that place will change you. Tomasz winds up at a small missionary center, a real home for people who need help every day. He pitches in however he can, cleaning, fixing things, supporting others who are struggling too. And for the first time in a long time, he actually feels useful. Now, Tomasz lives among them. He sweeps the floors, helps around the place, even teaches English to locals. Imagine that. A guy who hit rock bottom is now giving something to people who, by most standards, get written off. For the first time ever, he feels needed. Not as a problem, not as a burden, but as a person who makes a difference. That feeling flips his whole world. He starts to realize he can live differently. India totally reshapes how he sees things. Life gets simple, minimalist, honest. No shows, no pointless words, just the real stuff. He watches how people get by with almost nothing and still manage to be happy. That memory really sticks. And then one day, Tomasz sees the Himalayas for the first time. He's just standing there by the side of the road, staring at them like they're something out of a dream. Massive walls of ice and rock, heights you can't even wrap your head around. And in that moment, something inside him just shifts. The mountains stop being something you see in pictures. It's not about sports, not a hobby. This feels like purpose. He realizes this is it. This is what he's been searching for all these years. In those days, he finally feels alive, calm, focused, real. No bad habits, no running from himself. Just him and the mountains. And that feeling, it's stronger than anything else he's ever known. Tomasz eventually heads back to Europe, gets married, moves to Ireland, lands a job as a mechanic. He's ticking all the boxes: steady paychecks, a place to live, a family, that classic normal life. But inside, something starts bubbling up, that same old emptiness, the emptiness he once ran from in India. And now, it's back. But now, things are different. The old cravings are gone. They're not really what she's after anymore. Now, she wants something bigger. And Tomasz gets it. He knows he needs a challenge, a real test. Not just the same old 9 to 5, not lazy weekends staring at the TV. He needs something that actually makes him feel alive. Like he did in the Himalayas. He finds himself daydreaming about the mountains all the time, replaying those moments when he'd just stand there, staring at the peaks. He tells his friends, "I'd go back there tomorrow, no question." And he means it. It's not just talk. He's 100% ready to drop everything and go right now. Normal life feels suffocating. He tries to fit in, to act like everyone else, but he just can't pull it off. It's like wearing someone else's clothes. They just don't fit. They pinch, they rub. It's uncomfortable. So Tomasz starts climbing the little crags around Ireland. At first, it's just for himself. But it doesn't take long to realize he's actually really good at it. Naturally good. He improves at an unbelievable pace. Pretty soon, confidence turns into straight-up boldness. He feels unstoppable. And that's when he starts looking for others like him. People who get it. People who want more. Not weekend hikers, but real climbers. The kind of folks who treat the mountains as something way more than just a hobby. That's the headspace he's in. A weird mix of desperation, feeling like life's just slipping by, and this hunger for meaning. He knows, somewhere out there, in the mountains, something important is waiting for him. He just doesn't know what it is yet. Then, one night at a regular party, fate throws him a curveball. He meets Marek Nowski, a seasoned alpinist who starts telling stories about his climb on Mount Logan in Canada, which, by the way, is the 5th tallest peak in North America, almost 6,000 meters high. Tomasz listens and out of the blue just says, "Next time, I'm coming with you." Just like that, no hesitation. Marek looks at him, probably wondering if this guy is just crazy or if he's actually serious. Anyway, they start climbing together, and it doesn't take long for Marek to notice something special. Tomasz has this insane natural talent. He picks things up as he goes. No formal training, no coaches. He just watches, does, remembers. It's rare, and you can tell he genuinely loves it. Fast forward to 2008. They head off to Logan. They do it the hard way. No extra support, no porters, no safety net. Just the two of them in the mountain, and they make it. For Tomasz, this is it, the turning point. The moment he knows there's no going back. The old life, the mechanic from Ireland, it's all left behind, somewhere far below. He's back in the mountains now, for good. Marek becomes more than just a partner. He's a mentor, passing on his knowledge, his techniques, his sense of the mountains. And Tomasz soaks it all up, like a sponge. After Logan, he gains real confidence, the kind that feels unshakable. He knows he can go far, really far. No more limits, just him and the summits waiting out there. He starts to shape his own style, rough, minimalist, all instincts, no fancy extras, no backup plans, just pure climbing, just moving up, no distractions. That's his way, and he's sticking to it, no matter what. Pretty soon, people in the climbing world start calling him by his nickname, Czapkins. There's this clever play on his last name, Mackiewicz, and that special kind of energy he carries with him. This guy is always smiling. Seriously, even when everything's falling apart, even when he's inches from disaster, Tomasz just keeps that grin. He does things his way. Not by the book, not by any big club's playbook. He couldn't care less about official rules or standard systems. Sponsors, federations, sports programs, they don't mean a thing to him. He flat out refuses to be part of the machine. No interest in wearing someone else's logo, no need to report back to any committee. So, how does he get by? Crowdfunding, odd jobs, little gigs that come and go as fast as the money leaving his pocket. One day he's unloading boxes at a warehouse. Next day fixing up bikes and mopeds, anything he can do with his bare hands. He helps out at construction sites, hauls sacks, loads bricks, puts together steel frames. He works a few hours here and there, no contracts, nothing stable. Whatever helps him scrape by, he's in. People help out in the simplest ways. Somebody chips in $30, someone else sends 50, whatever they can spare. The amounts are small, but Tomasz doesn't need much. He's used to living on the edge, on the bare minimum. Every dollar goes straight to food, travel, the cheapest gear he can find, and tickets for Pakistan. And honestly, he's good with that. He doesn't care about comfort. He only needs himself and the mountain. He's not chasing fame. He dodges cameras whenever he can. He doesn't care about official titles or sports rankings. He doesn't want to be the high-altitude guy with a list of records. He just wants to climb. Everything else is just noise to him. At the start, he uses the cheapest stuff he can get. Basic ropes, second-hand carabiners, old discounted pitons. The kind of gear nobody else would even touch. He's taking on serious mountains with swap meet equipment, and honestly, that says way more about him than any medal ever could. He's an outsider, and he lives like one. But that's exactly what people love about him. He's authentic. Not from a club, not a federation guy, not someone raised by the mountaineering schools. He's a self-made man who lifted himself up from nothing, and he's climbing the same wild peaks as the athletes with huge support teams. Pretty soon, his nickname, Czapkins, turns into a kind of symbol. People start seeing him as a folk hero, the guy who proved you don't have to be from the elite to reach the world's great mountains. No contracts, just stubbornness and raw grit. After his success on Logan, Tomasz has his sights set on a new goal, Nanga Parbat, the 9th highest mountain in the world, 8,126 meters. But it's not about the number. Nanga Parbat is one of the deadliest of the big peaks. They actually call it the killer mountain. The stats are brutal. Roughly 1 out of every 5 people who go for the summit never make it back. That's not an exaggeration. That's just reality. What drew Tomasz was something rare, a legendary towering mountain, but with a winter permit that was basically free. Pakistan offered up to 95% off for winter expeditions. Climbing it in the summer, that cost around $3,000, but in winter, you could get it done for just a few $100. For comparison, climbing Everest runs into the tens of thousands. Nanga wasn't accessible because it was easy. It was accessible because it was actually affordable. This kind of situation gave outsiders like him a real shot. For Thomas, this wasn't just another 8,000er. He put it simply, "This is my mountain." And he kept telling people that. Friends, acquaintances, even reporters. Locals had all these legends about the spirit of the peak, who it takes, who it lets go, who it punishes. Thomas listened to those stories closely, almost as if he was trying to find his own fate in them. And every time, it just made him even more certain. He had to go. There's something else about him too, something unusual. He doesn't care about the other summits. He isn't making some bucket list of collecting a bunch of 8,000-meter peaks like most high-altitude climbers do. He's got his eye on one spot on the map. That's it. That kind of focus is rare, and honestly, it says a lot about who he is. Tomasz sees Nanga as his chance to prove to himself that he's no longer that kid who lost his way, who disappeared, who had to be pulled off the streets. For him, climbing isn't just a sport, it's about redemption. And slowly, in his mind, an almost mystical idea starts to take root. He truly believes the mountain called him, ever since India, that first time he saw the Himalayas. Like that moment wasn't an accident at all, but the start of something bigger. That's how Nanga Parbat became his obsession. He kept coming back to it, talking about it, planning, trying again and again. It really was like an addiction. Only now, the mountain was the addiction, and this one was way more dangerous than anything before. So, Tomasz and Marek arrive at Nanga Parbat, and they come seriously underprepared by 8,000er standards. We're talking basic sleeping bags, a regular old tent, gear you'd take on a weekend camping trip. No high-altitude equipment, no big backup supplies. They couldn't afford porters, so they had to carry everything themselves. 30 or 40 kilos on their backs, trudging up icy slopes where your body is already running on empty. Local alpinists and Pakistani guides looked at them with total doubt. You won't even make it to Camp 1. And they weren't kidding. Up there, gear like that is a one-way ticket. Their first attempt ended quickly. They didn't even get near the key points on the route. The weather, the cold, no time to acclimatize. It all sent them right back down. On their second try, they got up to about 5,400 meters. To most people, that's unimaginably high. For Nanga, that's just the warm-up. There was still almost 3 kilometers of brutal climbing left, and they just couldn't push on. They had to turn back again. The third try was their best. They reached about 7,300 meters. That's pretty much where most people admit defeat. But the summit? Still completely out of reach. The mountain just wouldn't let them pass. After that, they were out of money. To even buy tickets home, they started selling off their gear right there on the spot. Carabiners, pitons, whatever they could get a bit of cash for. Outwardly, Tomasz joked and smiled, did his best to pretend everything was fine. But you could see it was eating him up inside. The mountain had all his attention. Life outside of Nanga started to fade away. His job, his home, his relationships, all of it became background noise. Marek knows things can't go on like this. After a string of failed attempts, exhaustion, freezing temps, problems with acclimatization, and gear pushed past its limit, he realizes every new try isn't getting them closer to the summit. It's just taking them closer to the edge of survival. He knows how this mountain works. The longer you stick around, the more likely you won't make it home. So, he makes the call to stop. Not because he's weak, but because he's clear-headed. Deep down, he feels that Nanga could take them both, and he's just not willing to pay that price. Instead, he chooses life, his family, and plain good sense. He chooses to walk away while he still can. But Tomasz stays, and for him, this isn't failure. It's the start of a much longer journey. He just can't stop now. The mountain holds him tighter than any logic ever could, and he's prepared to keep coming back, as many times as it takes. After Marek leaves, Tomasz doesn't go straight back to Nanga Parbat. Instead, he heads home and takes a break. He needs to rethink everything, and that's exactly what he does, radically. He starts training on other peaks, short but technical routes, icy walls, sharp alpine ridges. That's where he really shapes his new style, alpine style. That means no preset camps, none of those fixed ropes, none of the safety nets big expeditions leave behind. Just the bare essentials and as much speed as possible. Where before he'd haul 30 or 40 kilograms, now it's maybe 5 to 10 max. Anything extra is just another risk. He learns to move fast and light, almost unprotected. He only takes what's absolutely necessary. Every extra kilo up high costs strength and cranks up the danger. For Tomasz, that's become an absolute law. Extra weight equals potential death. Little by little, the how of climbing starts to matter to him just as much as the summit itself. He doesn't want to follow the paths of commercial expeditions, where the route is already lined with tents and ropes. He's after a pure connection, just him and the mountain, nothing else. But that comes with a price. The risks shoot through the roof. One mistake, and it's over. Alpine style doesn't forgive. He becomes a loner, putting style above safety. For him, reaching the top in a way he respects himself for is everything. Not someone else's method, but his own. No compromises. And soon enough, people start saying he's gone too far, too risky, too extreme. But together with that comes respect, because he's not playing around. He really believes in what he's doing, and he's ready to pay whatever it takes. That's when someone new enters Tomasz's story. Élisabeth Revol, a world-class French alpinist. Her track record speaks for itself. Broad Peak, Gasherbrum 1, Gasherbrum 2. That's 3 8,000ers, no oxygen, all in 16 days. There are only a handful of people on the planet who can pull that off. But she's got a darker chapter too. On Annapurna, she lost her partner and barely survived herself. After that, she stayed away from the giants for years. The trauma was just too much to simply move on. But eventually she decides it's time to come back. Quietly, carefully, no drama. Here's how it goes. Once the mountains become a part of you, they're going to call you back one way or another. That's just how it is. At first, Elisabeth wasn't even planning to climb with Tomasz. They just happened to meet at base camp, started chatting, and soon realized they worked at the same pace. Their rhythms matched. Their personalities, they fit together almost perfectly. Elisabeth is quiet, rational, disciplined in her style. She weighs every move, she brings order. Tomasz is chaos. She's logic. He's all impulse. Together, it's a kind of balance you hardly ever see in high-altitude climbing. Back in 2015, they go for Nanga Parbat and get all the way up to around 7,800 meters, a huge leap forward. There's something like 300 vertical meters left to the summit. Then the weather flips, and just like that, they have to turn back. But everything changes after that climb. Their rope team isn't just a coincidence anymore. They become real partners, friends. In the mountains, trust is worth more than anything. And that's exactly what they have. Elisabeth is the only person who can actually stop Tomasz when he's charging ahead, oblivious to the danger. When he's ready to push on, even if the odds of making it are almost zero, she's the one who says, "Stop," and he listens. Only to her. She becomes his anchor, the one thing still connecting him to reality. Without her, he would have crossed that line long ago, the point where there's no coming back. Then, in 2016, Tomasz and Elisabeth try Nanga Parbat again. This time in winter. And a winter climb on an 8,000er, that's a whole different game. Temperatures dive below -40, storm winds whip the slopes, the days are short, and your body's always at its absolute limit. They climb high, but the weather literally pushes them down. The whole mountainside turns into a constant struggle. Gusts knock you out, temperatures keep dropping, the window is closing. So they retreat. Again. But that season, something happens that completely breaks Tomasz. Another team, Simone Moro, Alex Chikon, and Ali Sadpara, pulls off the first winter ascent of Nanga Parbat. This thing Tomasz thought was his destiny, his one shot at making history, is done by somebody else. His dream slips away, his record vanishes before it even exists. He tries to challenge the summit, asks for GPS tracks, wants proof of the route. It's not logic, it's pure desperation. He just can't accept that someone else reached the top first, not without him. But even after the defeat, he tells Elisabeth something that says it all. I have to go back. Not I want to, not even I'm going to, but I have to. Like it's a duty, something he simply can't leave behind. Elisabeth knows exactly what's happening to him. Tomasz is becoming obsessed. He's not just another climber anymore. Nanga Parbat has become his whole reason for being. And still, she decides to stick by him. Because she knows, if she lets him go by himself, no one's going to be able to save him. That season leaves Tomasz completely split inside. For him, it's simple now. Either he conquers Nanga Parbat, or nobody does. He starts saying a phrase that later everyone picks up on, I'm bound to this mountain. And he means it. It's not a metaphor. It's not bravado. It's exactly how he feels. Something connects him to Nanga now, a chain that he just can't break no matter what. This is the point of no return. From here, it's a one-way road to the final tragedy, and there's no way to put on the brakes. On December 23rd, 2017, Tomek and Elisabeth are back at Nanga Parbat's base camp. Winter in the Himalayas is a whole different beast. Temperatures plunge way below -40. The wind is brutal, and the weather just does whatever it wants. Summit windows are super short, shockingly rare. They pitch their tent, lay out their gear, and wait. In the mountains, waiting around is just as much a part of the climb as hauling yourself up the slope. You stare up at that white wall, you know what's coming, but you can't head up until the forecast says go. This season, Tomek's already decided, deep down, it's either he finally makes it or this chapter ends for good. And he doesn't keep this to himself. He tells Elisabeth. He texts his friends via satellite messages. There's no plan B anymore. Just before they're about to go for the summit, he sends out a few short updates. One of them will become the entire expedition's calling card, Strasna Walka, a terrifying struggle. It's not just about the climb. It's about fighting the mountain, fighting his own body, fighting the limits of what he can take. By the time they finally set off, both of them are running on fumes. The cold never lets you bounce back. Altitude hits their strength hard, but there's just no time left. Weather's about to close in, season's basically over. This is the last shot. On January 21st, they start moving. They take the Kinchofer route, keeping it as light as possible, almost alpine style, bare minimum gear, saving every ounce. But this isn't a pure alpine climb. On the key sections, they use fixed ropes left by earlier teams. In Nanga's winter, that's pretty much the only way. Their pace is slow. Tomek keeps stopping, gasping for breath. At high altitude, every step is a battle, every breath a fight. Then, new symptoms start showing up. Tomek says his vision is blurring. At this height, that's a screaming red flag, the first sign of edema, either in the brain or the lungs. Both are killers. Elisabeth gets it immediately. They need to turn back, right now. But Tomek flat out refuses. He insists it's just fatigue, that he'll push through. Obsession wins out over common sense. Years chasing Nanga have erased his ability to say, enough. So Elisabeth faces an impossible choice. Turn around and leave him alone, which, up here, is a certain death sentence. So, she stays. She sticks by him, falls in lockstep with his slow pace, keeps him moving, keeps him safe. She knows the cost. Up here, every extra minute drains your body. The longer you linger, the less chance you have of making it down alive. But leaving him here would be the end. Step by step, they keep going. In thin air, flirting with the edge of human limits. Tomek is hanging on by sheer willpower. Elisabeth is the reason he's still putting one foot in front of another, holding him up, physically and emotionally. Down below, no one knows what's happening. Communications are cut. The weather is breaking. On those icy slopes, it's just the two of them, alone, high above any help, with Tomek's condition getting worse. But they keep climbing, heading towards a summit that may well be their last. And then, they reach the top, 8,126 meters. Nanga Parbat, the roof of the world. Tomasz is standing exactly where he's been dreaming of for years. He got here through pain, setbacks, humiliation, and countless tries. But the timing is all wrong. It's twilight. Pretty much the most dangerous moment to be up here. The sun is sinking fast. The temperature is starting to drop. And when I say drop, I mean it's falling off a cliff. Every single minute they wait could be the last. Elisabeth just became the first woman in history to summit Nanga Parbat in winter. Tomasz is the first Pole to do it. This should be the kind of thing you spend your whole life working for, the crowning moment of any mountaineer's career. But the triumph, it lasts seconds. Really, just a few seconds. Because then, Tomasz turns to Elisabeth and says 3 words that make her breath catch. I can't see. She looks into his eyes, and there's panic. He's serious. He literally can't see a thing. Total blindness. This isn't just exhaustion or some foggy spell. It's acute high-altitude cerebral edema. And Elisabeth knows exactly what that means. Losing your vision this high up is a death sentence unless you descend right now. His brain is swelling, the pressure's building, and every second up here is just making it worse. The clock is ticking, in minutes, not hours. The temperature is plunging down to -50. The wind is picking up, slamming into their faces, slicing through every layer they're wearing. They're at the top way too late, way too late. Tomasz reaches out, grabs Elisabeth's shoulder tight. He's giving her all the control. He can't move on his own. He can't see where to step. He can't tell where the edge is, where the slope drops away. He's blind on top of an 8,000-meter peak. Elisabeth realizes just how bad this is. Getting a blind climber down from here, it's almost impossible. One wrong move, and it's over for both of them. But there's no choice. They have to go. Right now. She looks at his face. It's turning pale, and not just from the cold. It's the lack of oxygen. His lips are going blue. His breathing is sharp, ragged, wheezing. He's gasping in these short, desperate breaths. And then Elisabeth notices something else, something even worse. His lungs are starting to fill up with fluid, pulmonary edema. She can see it just from the way he's breathing, from the sounds he's making. He's literally drowning from the inside out. So now he's got two life-threatening conditions at once: cerebral edema and pulmonary edema at 8,000 meters in the dark at -50. And there's no way to call for help. This is the point in an expedition when the outcome is pretty much set. An experienced mountaineer knows in an instant. Almost nobody survives these symptoms at this altitude. The statistics are brutal, but Elisabeth won't give up. She grabs Tomasz's hand, tells him to hold on. They start going down, the two of them, slowly, carefully. Every step is a gamble. Every move is a fight. Tomasz is moving blind, trusting her with his life. He puts his feet where she tells him, holds on to her like she's his last hope. His breathing is getting worse. The cough starts, dry, hacking, painful. Night has swallowed them whole now. Their headlamps light up just a few feet ahead. Beyond that, it's total blackness. The slope drops away at a terrifying angle. One slip, and it's over. Elisabeth knows in her bones. They're not going to make it. There's just no way to get down to safety in one night. They have to stop. Wait it out. But where? How? In this shape? Tomasz starts tripping over his own feet. His legs won't do what he tells them. His balance is gone. His mind's starting to shut down. Elisabeth is pretty much dragging him now. She's smaller, lighter, but right now she's hauling him down the mountain because that's the only option left. They're losing altitude painfully slowly. Every 100 meters feels like a tiny victory, but base camp is still more than 3,500 meters below them. That might as well be forever. The cold is getting impossible to bear. Their hands are going numb. The wind is burning their faces raw. Tomasz is starting to freeze. Frostbite. White patches on his cheeks. He's losing feeling in his fingers. Elisabeth knows they have to find shelter, fast. If they don't, they'll die out here, alone, in the dark, on this slope. She's searching, scanning the mountain for some place, any place to stop. Finally, she finds a small snow ledge. She grabs her ice axe and starts digging. She's digging out a snow cave, hacking away at the ice. It's brutal work at this altitude. Every move just drains her. The air's thin. Her hands won't stop shaking from exhaustion. But she keeps going. Because if she doesn't, Tomasz will be dead in a matter of hours. The wind will just freeze him solid. The cave is their only shot at making it till morning. She digs out a little hollow and drags Tomasz in. He can barely move. She settles him inside, covers him with whatever she can find. He just lies there, barely breathing, loud, ragged, gurgling breaths. Elisabeth pulls out her satellite communicator, a device about the size of a phone. It lets her send short messages via satellite, her only link to the outside world up here. Her hands are shaking as she types. SOS, their coordinates. Quick rundown of Tomasz's condition. She sends it off to 3 people, her husband in France, Tomasz's wife in Poland, and a mountaineer friend who could maybe organize a rescue. 3 messages, 3 hopes. The messages go out slowly, the signal up here barely hanging on. But they make it. Down below, back in civilization, chaos erupts. Panic in Pakistan, helicopters are needed right now, ASAP. But there's a catch, a huge catch. Pakistani pilots almost never fly above 6,000 meters. The air's too thin for the rotors to get proper lift. That's the technical limit. 7,900 meters, pretty much impossible. A helicopter just can't get that high. Or if it does, it can't hover, can't pick people up. The calls start. The search for anyone willing to try. Anyone brave or crazy enough to make the attempt. Time is ticking. Every hour up here eats away at their chances. Across Europe, dozens of people jump in. Friends, colleagues, the mountaineering community. The news flies. Czapkins is in trouble. He needs help. Diplomatic channels open up. Phone calls to embassies, Poland, France, Pakistan. Social media blows up. People repost, share, send messages, raise money. Crowdfunding kicks off in hours. Thousands of people who've never met Tomasz chip in, 10 euros, 20, whatever they can manage. It's this incredible ripple of support, a giant wave of people wanting him to make it, wanting this story to keep going, not to end here, not like this, not now. And there's Tomasz, lying motionless in a snow cave at nearly 8,000 meters. His breathing is loud and wet, and he can't see a thing. It's total darkness for him. His reactions are barely there. Elisabeth keeps talking to him. "Tomasz, can you hear me?" Maybe he nods, or maybe she's imagining it. She can't tell. He's right on the edge of consciousness, suspended somewhere between life and death. She sits beside him, holding his hand, doing whatever she can to keep him warm. But Elisabeth knows she's at her own limit too. Her fingers are numb, and she's starting to lose feeling in her legs. The cold is getting to her. If she lets herself get any weaker, they'll both die up there. But she refuses to give in. She can't. Not while a rescue mission is gearing up down below. There's still a chance, even if it's small. The night drags on forever. Seconds stretch into minutes. Minutes become hours. Time feels completely warped at this altitude. Elisabeth checks Tomasz's pulse, weak and thready, but it's still there. He's alive, for now. She manages to send another message. Location update, condition is critical, help needed as soon as possible. It takes a huge effort. Her fingers barely work. Down on the mountain, people are working non-stop, organizing, planning, trying to figure out what to do. But everyone knows, they're almost out of time. If help doesn't arrive in the next few hours, Tomasz won't make it. Another message comes through, harsh, urgent. "If you don't start descending right now, we won't be able to save either of you. We can't save you. Start moving down, now." This isn't a suggestion. It's an ultimatum. The decision is made for her. She can't choose. She's being told what to do. People down below are panicking. They're terrified of losing them both. They're forcing her to leave. Elisabeth looks at Tomasz one last time. He's lying there, barely breathing. She knows that leaving him here is like signing his death warrant. The rescuers say they're coming. The Polish team is on their way. They'll get him. But later, it turns out, she never actually gets that confirmation. The connection cuts out at the worst possible moment. Even so, Elisabeth starts down the mountain, alone, leaving Tomasz behind in that snow cave. She glances back just once more. He's still there, lost in the darkness, blind and dying. But she keeps going. Because she has to. Because that's what she's been told. The descent quickly turns into a nightmare. She's at the edge, physically and mentally. Hardly any sleep for days. The massive altitude, the cold, the endless stress. Everything is catching up to her. Soon, the hallucinations start. Faint at first. She thinks she hears someone nearby, maybe even sees them moving alongside her. She looks back. No one. She pushes on. At one point, she sits down and starts to untie her boot. Slow, mechanical movements. It's minus 40 degrees out. She actually takes her boot off, the kind of thing that's certain death up there. But her mind is gone. Her bare foot is instantly hit by that icy, burning cold, but she doesn't even notice right away. She just sits there, staring into space with her boot in her hands. Eventually, something snaps her out of it. Clarity, shock. What am I doing? She looks at her foot. It's white. Frostbite has already started. Panic surges. She shoves her foot back into the boot as quickly as she can. Her hands are shaking. Her fingers won't work. Tying the laces is impossible, so she just stuffs her foot in and forces her way onward. It's honestly a miracle she didn't lose her whole leg right then and there. Elisabeth knows she's dying. She has to find a place to spend the night again. There's no way she can make it all the way down to base camp tonight. She's just too weak. She can barely move. She's completely uncoordinated. It's simple. Either she finds shelter, or she dies right here, on this slope. She stumbles across a small crevice and scrambles inside. She curls up, trying to get warm, but the cold is everywhere. It seeps through everything, her clothes, her skin, all the way to her bones. The entire night blurs by in a half-conscious haze. She slips in and out of awareness, has no idea where she is or what's even happening. Faces, voices, fragments of her world mixing together with things that aren't real. She is literally right on the edge of death. One more night like this, and that's it. Her body won't make it. Her heart and her brain can't take this much longer. Down below, there's already a whole crew of people working around the clock. They don't sleep. They're pulling together money, trying to organize a rescue mission. But they have no idea it might already be too late. In those chaotic moments, decisions get made. Some of them, it turns out, are fatal. Let's rewind for a second. Back to the moment Elisabeth managed to send her first call for help. That message reaches the Polish team, who are, at that very moment, on K2, prepping for their own summit attempt. The team is Adam Bilecki, Denis Urubko, Jarosław Botor, and Piotr Tomola. They've got their own goals, their own expedition underway. Suddenly, the message arrives. Czapkins is in trouble on Nanga. Immediate help needed. There isn't even a pause. They say yes right away. No hesitation. This means abandoning their own summit, losing their acclimatization, and putting their lives at risk for someone else. But that's just what you do. Climbers never leave their own behind. After jumping through a mountain of paperwork, the Polish team lifts off in a helicopter, heading for Nanga Parbat. But the chopper can only drop them off at about 4,800 meters. Any higher, and it just can't fly. The air's way too thin up there. The team jumps out, grabs only the bare minimum of gear, and starts climbing. They need to get up almost 3,000 meters of vertical in a hurry. And they do it almost at a run. Straight up, no ropes, just using old lines left behind by past expeditions. Any one of those ropes could snap under their weight, but they don't have a choice. They cover 100 meters vertical in record time. That's insanely fast at this altitude. Their lungs are burning, their hearts pounding, but they don't stop. At around 6,500 meters, they find Elisabeth. She's just barely hanging on, mumbling incoherently. Bilecki gets closer. Urubko pulls out a thermos, hot drink, forces her to sip. It's hard for her to even swallow. They secure her, tie her in, get her ready to descend. She keeps mumbling about Tomek. He's still up there, in a cave. They have to get him. Please. The rescuers glance at each other. They know where he is. They know the state he's in. 7,900 meters. He's blind. Brain and lung edema. He's gone more than a day without help. Bilecki looks up to the cave, then checks the time, then back to Elisabeth. She's barely alive now. In a few more hours, she'd be gone. And that's when they realize the heartbreaking truth. They can save her if they leave right now. But Tomek, there's just no way. Physically, it's just impossible. Climbing another 1,300 meters, finding the cave, pulling out a blind man, and bringing him all the way down, there's no way. It would take at least a full day. By then, they'd all be gone. All four of them. The decision is made. It's brutal, but it's the only chance. They rescue Elisabeth. Tomasz stays on the mountain. They start heading down. Elisabeth is tied to Bilecki. She's moving on autopilot, practically unconscious. Her legs just go on their own. Her mind's checked out. Somewhere up there, in a snow cave almost 8,000 meters above sea level, Tomasz MACIEJEWICZ, Czapkins, is left behind. The man who came back from rock bottom, who beat addiction, who found meaning in the mountains. He's lying in darkness, blind, alone, barely moving, at an altitude where no one survives the night. The temperature is dropping to -50. Wind is hammering at the cave walls. There's barely any air. And he's dying, slowly. His mind fading, breathing slowing down, heart struggling. The mountain is taking him. The same mountain he loved, the one he gave everything for, the one that started calling him way back in India. Elisabeth makes it to base camp. From there, it's a quick helicopter ride to the hospital. The doctors check her over. 4th-degree frostbite on her feet, toes black, hands damaged too. Her face is hurt, but she survives. The price, though, is huge, and the psychological trauma is even deeper. This is the second time she's lost a climbing partner. The first died on Annapurna, now Tomasz on Nanga. She had to leave him there, alive, dying, but still alive. The guilt is crushing. Logically, she knows she had no other choice. Emotionally, she can't forgive herself. She can't forget his face, his blind eyes, his last words. They book her in for long-term therapy, months, maybe years, working through trauma, through PTSD, and that gnawing survivor's guilt. The money raised for the rescue, there's some left. They send it to Tomasz's family. Tomasz MACIEJEWICZ remains on the slopes of Nanga Parbat. But he did it. He reached the summit. He achieved what he had dreamed about for years. He became the first Polish climber to reach Nanga in the winter. It's both his triumph and his tragedy. The mountaineering world remembers him. Czapkins, the guy from the street who made it to 8,000 meters, a symbol of stubbornness, of obsession, a reminder of how a dream can turn deadly. Nanga Parbat adds another name to its black list, another life to its collection. The killer mountain lives up to its reputation. Again, if you want to hear more stories about people who go where others won't, hit like, subscribe, and drop a comment about who you want to hear about next.